Okay, so part 2 of this little pace fishing series, and we're going to look at how to fish in the deeper water. So a lot of venues, you've got sort of above 5 foot of water to fish in. Pace can still be effective in that depth, but you've got to get your rigs and your bait and your feeding right to get the most from it. So in this short video, we're going to show you how to do it. It's 6 foot deep out there. It's a little bit tricky, but there is a way that you can catch loads of fish on pace in these deeper swims. So in these deeper swims, one of the first things you've got to get right for effective pace fishing is to get your rig right. And it's the reason why we have a bigger float in the range of 0.5. Like 90% of my pace fishing, I have no shot down the line whatsoever. However, in these deeper swims, you do need a bit of shot, you need a bit of bulk down the line to give yourself some stability. Otherwise, it's just not going to work out for you very well. That's the reason why we've got the 0.5 JC paste in the range. For swims like this, over 5 foot, it just gives you the right amount of weight to get a nice bit of stability when you're fishing. So this is the rig. It's really simple, but there's one little key element to it that I think is really effective. So firstly, we've got the pink zip, nice and strong. When you're fishing in deeper swims, we are fishing for big fish. That elastic just allows you to get plenty of control. You don't want to be like this all day trying to play the fish. So nice and strong, nice and reliable. We've got a lovely big pot on there. That is just the same on all of our rigs. I can put some feed in there if I want to, but ultimately it allows me to put a nice big piece of paste in there. Now the first thing you'll notice is I've got quite a long length of line between the pole tip and the float. Now this is for good reason. When you're fishing in the deeper parts of your swim, you're often fishing over silt. And as the fish get more and more confident, more and more aggressive, you'll start getting bubbles and blows in your swim. The swim actually gets deeper as the day goes on. And having a nice bit of length of line, I can just keep adding a bit of depth on. Nothing more complicated than that. It just allows me to add a bit more depth on as the swim gets progressively deeper as the session and the fish get more confident in feeding. Like I say, we've got that 0.5 float. Now interestingly, I plumb this up sort of to the bottom of the body, just a little bit more, and then like I say, I'll just keep adding it on. I kind of want most of that bristle showing, so when it sort of shots up and the paste touches the bottom, I kind of want certainly 2/3 of the bristles showing. And I just found that by the time it's all settled, that bit of curve comes in, the slack's taken up, and that'll just pull it down nicely. So I'm sort of plumbed up where my fingers are there, so maybe like an inch over depth, something like that, but that's just a starting point. Now the clever bit, as you can see, it's quite deep. It's like a proper full top kit, that is. Now the clever bit is this little gadget down the line. Now I mentioned that we need a bulk down. Now if you've got a bulk down, a fixed bulk, you often get tangles when you're shipping out. Now this little ingenious idea, I believe was Pete Goodman way back when. I saw it in a magazine years and years ago. I've since seen Penn Writing use it, Lee Thornton, and it is ingenious. Now it's a little Olivet, that's a 0.3 Olivet. So it's a 0.5 float, a 0.3 Olivet's about right. Now I've taken the rubber inner out of the Olivet, so it's nice and free running on the line, and then I've just got a little rubber float stop on there. Now what happens is when you're shipping out, this sliding Olivet will find its natural position. So when you're shipping out and I've loaded the paste into the pot, that Olivet sort of finds a middle point in your rig. So when you're shipping out, you never get a tangle. It just moves exactly where you need to be. If it was a fixed bulk, you often get tangles when you're shipping your paste out. With this, not a problem. It's an ingenious little idea. Like I say, it's not my idea, but it is ultimately on all of my deep water paste rigs. It is perfect. It's a great idea, that is, and I'll show you that in action when we get fishing. And I've got about a 2 foot between that Olivet where it finishes and that stop, and then my hook. Now I fish straight through with my paste rigs. That's 0.20 exact, straight through to a nice big hook, size 10. And that is as simple as my rig is for deep water. The key is that sliding Olivet. It makes your life so much easier when using that bigger float. So a perfect little setup. We'll show you how to use it. Now I just want to quickly touch on the bait. I'm well known for liking hemp when I'm pace fishing, but out there I do think you need to create a bit of noise to pull some fish in and create a big situation of feeding. And when I'm potting hemp in, I think it's all a bit too tight. When you're trying to catch them in deep water, I do think you need a bit of a spread of bait, otherwise you're just going to get missed bites and foul up fish. Now again, something I've robbed from someone else. Luke Bamford does it incredibly well, much better angler than me when fishing deep water pace, and he fishes like loose fed 4 mils. And I've adopted that into my fishing and caught loads of fish with it as well. So for the feeding, I've just got a bag of 4 mil pellets, straight out the bag, just nice standard 4s, and I'm going to loose feed with a catapult. Like I say, I'm trying to create a nice big situation where the fish are just grazing around in the swim. I don't want a tiny little pile of bait on the bottom, I want a nice big area. And loose feeding with the catty, then 4mm pellets is so effective. And then the paste is a little bit stiffer than when I'm fishing shore or in the edge. Like when it's obviously shallower water, I can use a really wet paste, a really soft paste, but it's like I say, it's 6 foot deep out there. You've got to be realistic about getting your bait to the bottom. Ultimately, we've still got to get the bait to the bottom. So just got my usual paste mix, but I've got it as a smooth sort of putty consistency. And you see that with the wheat gluten. You see how I've mixed the paste in a different video, the paste mixing video, but ultimately it's just that. You can see the wheat gluten in there. It's a lovely smooth putty. Now, it is important that this isn't like a rock hard paste. Although it is firmer, it's still soft and smooth. If you mix like a dry ground bait to like a rock hard conker, because it's deep, it's just not effective. The fish pick it up, the hook doesn't pull through. It's just not right. You want this, still want a lovely soft smooth texture with your paste, and I think that's super important. So should we turn around and show you how to catch a few fish in these deeper swims, because I think it's quite important. The feeding is ultimately, like with all fishing, the most important part. Okay, so targeting the deeper water, the first thing I've got to stress is about conditions and then the feeding, because they're the two most important things. Now, if it's a baking hot day, red hot, flat calm, you're going to be struggling to catch it on the bottom long in the deeper water. It's just, the fish are just going to be up in the water. It's going to make things very difficult. However, today, lovely overcast day, quite mild, but you know, we've got a bit of wind on at times, it's raining, it's like the perfect day to catch in that deeper water. So just bear that in mind. If you're going to try this and it's a red hot day, you might have to look at other ideas before, you know, for getting the most out of your session. So I just wanted to get that point across. And then the feeding. Now, I mentioned while I was doing the little sort of intro thing that I kind of want to create a big area. So I'm not going to like feed with a pot on my pole. I'm not going to really feed with a big pot. It's all going to be done with a catty. Now, I think it's important to say that I don't like to feed if I can help it while my float's in the water. We know missed bites with paste are a nightmare. The more times you feed on top of your float, the more chance you are of missing the bite. What I'm trying to do is feed quite heavily while my float's not in the water. We've been fishing a little while now, the fish are quite settled. It's like, you can see them fizzing up out there. And what I'm doing, I'm actually feeding either when I hook a fish or even now when I'm baiting up. I can see where I'm fishing. Like I say, I'm trying to create a big area so I don't have to be like pinpoint accurate. And literally what I'm doing is feeding 2 potfuls of 4mm pellets while my float's not in the swim. So nice area, you know, as accurate as we can be. I've sort of got a gauge for it now, and that is as simple as it is. By the time I get out there with my baited rig, hopefully those fish will follow them pellets down and be rooting around on the bottom. So I think that's one really important thing. Feed the catapult and do it when your float's not in the swim. So this is I'm gonna bait up now, and I'm gonna show you what. Look, you can see that Olivet and how it slides out, slides and finds a midpoint in your rig and stops tangles. It's ingenious. Right, so when it comes to putting the paste on, a wet hand is your friend. It just makes putting the paste on cleaner and easier. It stops it sticking to your fingers. So got a bowling ring just in front of me here with some water in it, wet hand. Now I'm just going to get a nice big dollop of paste. I don't mess around, I put a proper piece on, mould it in my fingers first, flatten it off, and then lay the hook to the bottom of the paste and fold it around that line and around that hook. Nice and simple. And pop it in that pot, and you can see how that Olivet is taking effect. So we've got the hook bait in the pot, line's coming down, and that Olivet has found its little settling point there, and it's keeping everything nice and under tension so we can ship it out without worry of tangles. I'm just gonna, it's important as well when you're shipping out, try and keep that Olivet in the water as best you can, and it'll just keep everything under a nice bit of tension. So we've already fed the swim with those 2 pouches of pellets that we fed, and now we just got to do everything nice and steady. Now, one thing I want to say is it's important, just flick your rig up sort of upstream a little bit, and then carefully put your pot on the surface and roll that paste out. If you were to drop it in from a height or anything like that, the paste hitting the water could knock it off the hook. So just do it gently and it'll help everything get to the bottom, hopefully intact. Now what will happen is you'll see that Olivet in there, look, the paste has just touched the bottom there, and we're set and we're fishing. So got about half the bristles showing now. It is varying quite a lot. Ooh. It is varying quite a lot because the bottom is being dug up. And of course, you're going to miss bites with this. But it's about minimising it. You know, we're trying to catch fish in the deep bit of the swim here, which obviously means that you are going to miss bites, there's no doubt about it. But it's about putting the blinkers on, and working out how to feed it to keep it to a minimum. So it's important just to ship out with that Olivet on the surface. You see how it keeps the rig under tension as you're shipping out, stops any tangle. And then the next important part is to get that pot on the surface and roll that paste in gently. So right on the surface. And it's just one less thing to worry about your paste getting knocked off. And then what we're going to do, we're going to wait for that rig to settle. See that paste has just touched down, and you'll see the paste, it's just under tension. Like I said, the fish are feeding quite well now, so we're getting a bit of where they're digging out the bottom. So sometimes the float's a little bit under. I reckon it's had my paste off. Oh no. Now it's just a case of trying to work out what is a liner and a bite and what is a true bite. Now, that was great. That was a great bite. Now you see that, it was perfect. It was like the perfect bite. It just walloped under 1,000,000 miles an hour. There's no mistaking that. And I think that's an important point to make. I don't think you really miss paste bites. I think you miss liners that look like paste bites, because you've got weight at the bottom end, it exaggerates the float going under. So you imagine you've got quite a tight line between your float and your paste. So as soon as the fish brushes that line, it looks magnified compared to when you're fishing with other baits like pellets and stuff. So you often get, oh, it's a tench. You often get these bites that appear unmissable, but the reality is they're not. They're not actually bites in the first place. You rarely miss a proper paste bite, because it'll just wallop under at 1,000,000 miles an hour. Now look at this thing. I wasn't expecting him. Look at him. What a cracking tench. Close to £3 that one. Not the intended species, but more than welcome. And he gave us a great bite. Let's just pop back out there. Right, so like I said, I'm gonna feed now, so that by the time I've baited up and get back out there, hopefully then pellets are on the bottom, nice and ready for the fish to come in. So like I say, you do miss bites with paste fishing, unfortunately. It's just an unfortunate part of it, but it's about putting the blinkers on a little bit and getting on with it. People say, how do you hit more bites? I missed loads of bites in the course of a match on paste, especially when you're fishing deep water, but I know how good it is when it all comes together, and I'm prepared to go through the missed bites and work towards it. And what will tend to happen is you'll miss a few bites in a row, then all of a sudden you'll hit like 2 or 3 in as many casts, just with the fish will settle down or whatever. So it is worth putting the blinkers on a bit and working through those missed bites. So let's get that bait out there. Try and catch a nice carp. So it's just like a time and motion study, this is. We're just trying to do everything right every single time. Make sure we don't get in any tangles, taking our time shipping out, pot on the surface, and then drag that float over the top of the paste, and then we've just got to wait for another, hopefully, lightning fast bite. The best bites are the ones that kind of make you jump a little bit, the ones that absolutely zoom under. Now, one thing about how we fish with the paste is that you'll know when the bait's not on. Certainly when you're fishing short and in the edge, when you've got no weight down the line necessarily, the float will pop up. Because we've got quite a lot of weight down the line with this, we don't have that luxury of the float popping up quite so obviously, because we've got to get some weight down the line to give our rig a bit of stability. So one little trick I like to do, and you might have seen me do it on the chuck before, if I think my paste isn't off, I gently pull the pole to one side, and the float will sort of tension up against the paste and almost pull under a little bit, so you know your paste is still on. And oftentimes when you do that, you pull up to your paste, you get a really aggressive bite. It's just something to bear in mind. If you've been sat there for a minute or two and you think, oh, is my paste still on? Just pull out that bite. Just pull the float, the pole tip, just to one side, and you'll be amazed. So that's got to be a carp, and it can't be another tench. That was another great bite, and this is what I mean. There's no missing them, is there? They're just proper positive unders that go under at 1,000,000 miles an hour, and that feeding with that catapult, creating that lovely big area, just makes the whole process so much better and enjoyable. It's nice, isn't it, just firing loads of pellets in. Certainly helps me as someone who likes to feed. You could do it with 6 mils, I'm sure, but these 4 mils seem about perfect today. See that pink elastic is bossing them. We've just got to be careful, there's like a pipe in the edge just here. That's a cracking fish. Lovely. So yeah, so hopefully that's the perfect sort of demonstration to show you how to use them slightly bigger floats when you're pace fishing in the deeper water. It's nothing to be scared of. It is effective, and better still, you can catch loads of great big units like this on that deeper water. So give it a try, those 0.5 floats in that slightly deeper water, and then join me on part 3 of this video where we're going to look at that short pole line at that 4 to 5 metre range, where we're going to step down the float size and show you a slightly different feeding situation.